For Army recruits at Fort Lee, this day will shape the rest of their lives. They're about to begin officer training school. Among the trainees is Lisa GAUDENZIS. By mid-morning, all the new officer trainees have reported to their barracks. All except one.
Lisa did not show up for officer training school. The Army immediately classified her as AWOL.
She wanted to do her time in officers training, and for us not to hear anything, nothing, we knew something happened at that point. When Lisa graduated from high school, she moved down to West Palm. She wound up getting a job in an auto body shop. Lisa's working in the auto body shop, and who's working in there also is Jim. Jim was her boss. They started to date, and one thing led to another.
21-year-old Lisa and 24-year-old Jim Burdett get married in 1985. They welcome a baby girl named Leah.
All of her energy and her attention was focused on Leah and her education, and the marriage was over. They were not functioning as a married couple for a long time before they ultimately did get divorced in 1989.
Lisa and Leah move to Virginia. And that's when Lisa meets tow truck driver Lawrence GAUDENZIS.
She thought he was good looking. He took her out to dinner. Lisa was, smitten.
Lawrence was very involved in the Mormon church, and they moved in together into a house that was rented to them by the bishop of that church. So it was a very quiet, religious, rural area.
Once again, Lisa falls hard.
Lisa said to me, "Guess what?" And I knew what she was going to say, that she was pregnant. She was ecstatic.
Lisa and Lawrence named their daughter Shelby. They marry shortly after. Despite having 2 kids, Lisa enlists in the Army in 1994. It was the first step towards her dream job.
Lisa's goal was to be a lawyer and a judge. She was going to make that work by joining the Army, going to school, and becoming a JAG judge.
The GAUDENZIS rent out their basement. Their tenant helps out with the cooking and cleaning while Lisa works and studies.
The MPs showed up at Lawrence's house, and they also showed up at her mother's house in the Keys looking for Lisa.
Lawrence filed a missing persons report on Lisa with the Caroline County Sheriff's Department. He told them that he had dropped Lisa off at the bus station in Richmond to go to officer training school. And that was the last time he saw her. The basement tenant was there the last evening that Lawrence and Lisa were together in the home. The basement tenant backed Lawrence's story up, that they were indeed home together and that Lawrence had left with Lisa to take her to officer training school.
Lawrence starts over with his daughter Shelby, and without Lisa.
We tried calling Lawrence to talk to him, and he changed his phone number. Changed the phone number, changed the name on the account. That's when the ball started to roll.
Joe and Nancy Mardo pushed so hard that the Sheriff's Department finally conceded and said they would bring Lawrence GAUDENZIS in for a polygraph test. They contacted Lawrence GAUDENZIS, who said, "No problem, I will come in for a polygraph test," and they scheduled it.
At first he agreed. He didn't show up. His excuse was he was sick. What ended up occurring is he left town. Nobody knew where he went, no forwarding address.
He disappeared off the face of the earth and took our granddaughter with him.
The state police, in investigating the disappearance of Lisa GAUDENZIS, found that a lot of what Lawrence was saying in his original version about dropping her off the bus station didn't make sense. He had dropped her off at a bus station in Richmond to take a bus to Fort Lee. The problem with that story is it's a 45-minute drive from where Lawrence was living to the bus station in Richmond. It was only another 30 minutes to Fort Lee. And Why would you drive someone 45 minutes to a bus station to take a half-hour bus trip?
The state police made a deal with a news station in Richmond to run this story and to show a picture of Lawrence GAUDENZIS and ask the public for their assistance with any leads. They almost immediately got a tip, and the tipster who called said that they definitely recognized this person, but that was not Lawrence GAUDENZIS. They knew him as Randy Evans.
Randy Evans is a local man who lives on the streets. Police find him at a shopping center.
The agent said, "Are you Lawrence GAUDENZIS?" He said, "No, my name is Randy Lee Evans."
He had a beard that looked very much like Randy Evans. He had a brace on his hand, just like Randy Evans had always had. Lawrence has a tattoo, a very distinctive tattoo on his chest, and he asked this man he's talking to, "Can you take your shirt off so I can see if you have any tattoos?" And sure enough, there's the tattoo that Lawrence GAUDENZIS had. This was Lawrence GAUDENZIS posing as Randy Evans.
Lawrence's story was that he gave Randy Evans a car, I think it was a Chevelle or maybe a Mustang, and $10,000 for his identification. That's how he got all of this information on Randy Evans. You know, it's kind of funny that Randy Evans was never seen again either. He's gone.
Police arrest a now remarried Lawrence GAUDENZIS for identity theft and for violating his probation on a weapons charge.
When we heard that he started a new life and he had a new wife, we were livid, absolutely livid. I got on the computer, I pulled up all this information. We got a marriage license on him under the name of Randy Lee Evans. He married Linda May.
Police also want to know about his 4-year-old daughter, Shelby.
He changed Shelby's name to Logan Evans, and the three of them were living not that far away from where he left, about 1 county over in Rockingham County.
Lawrence GAUDENZIS pleads guilty to forgery and is sentenced to 2 years in prison. He's released in 2004. Police can't charge Lawrence in connection to Lisa's disappearance. With no new leads or evidence, the case of the missing mom goes as cold as an old Virginia coal mine. Investigators interview Diane, who used to babysit the GAUDENZIS' daughter Shelby back in Virginia. Lisa and Lawrence called Diane to babysit the weekend before Lisa was supposed to report to Fort Lee.
Lawrence was excited for her to come home, so they took Shelby over to the babysitter. During that time, Diane and Lisa have a conversation, and Lisa tells her that she wants to get a divorce from Lawrence.
I believe that Lawrence heard Lisa tell the babysitter, Diane, that she was going to leave Lawrence, that Lawrence was afraid that Lisa was going to take Shelby away from him, just like she had taken Leah away from Jim Burdett.
We have a classic triggering event. He's going to lose control of his wife, but more importantly, he's going to lose control over the most important thing in his life, which is his daughter.
You start putting circumstances together, and it all starts going down the same road, that Lawrence, more than likely, killed Lisa.
They look for evidence at the home Lawrence and Lisa once shared.
I go in the closet door and I notice that the drywall, there's been some type of work done there. I had pulled the carpet up and there was just a gigantic red stain. It looked like blood. So I conducted a luminol. It looked like the biggest blue light you've ever seen. I swabbed it, we brought it to the lab. They said, we can't say it's blood, but what we can tell you is there's a whole lot of Clorox there.
Agent Collins goes down to Georgia and locates the downstairs tenant that was living in the basement at the time of Lisa's disappearance.
Early on, they did interview the basement tenants, and the woman who lived in the basement essentially said that she hadn't seen anything unusual.
And it gets to the point where she is rocking almost uncontrollably. And I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "I'm afraid that Lawrence will come try to kill me."
Lawrence GAUDENZIS' former tenant tells Agent Collins about the night before Lisa vanished.
She says that the ground was frozen. It was been cold for several days. She was out there smoking a cigarette. Lawrence didn't know that she had seen him come out of the top floor deck and carrying a big green bag that he could hardly carry. He went out for about 10 minutes into the woods and came back and didn't have the bag with him.
The tenant says Lawrence left the house in a hurry. Once he was gone, she went inside and noticed a trail of dirt leading to a bedroom upstairs.
She had a friend with her at the time. They come in the bedroom and they see all of Lisa's military gear, all laid out. They walk into the bathroom and all they see is a bunch of blood. They are scared to death. So they lock the door and go back downstairs. She was still so petrified all these years later.
We decided to indict him for murder, and the police went and arrested him.
He was in shackles, and we sat right there. And we looked right at, he seen us, he didn't know what to do.
Just 2 days into the trial, Lawrence pleads guilty to second-degree murder and is sentenced to 25 years in prison. The mystery surrounding the disappearance of the drifter Randy Evans remains an open investigation.
Joe and I were relieved that Lawrence finally was found guilty. We weren't happy that we didn't know where Lisa's remains were.
He had told us that when he dropped her off in this field, he put her in a 50-gallon drum with muriatic acid. So we pull down in this field. Well, we find what looks like a lot of synthetic material that comes out of a sleeping bag.
I look off to the right, and literally there's 3 bottles of muriatic acid that's been there for 15, 20 years.
Not far from the acid bottles, investigators find something telling.
It was Lisa Bartow's dental bridge. And it's the only human remains of Lisa that there are.